Kia ora team, welcome to week 9 of Sport, Exercise and Recreation Aotearoa, New Zealand. This week we're going to look at the exercise industry. So this is the recorded version, obviously. I'm just going to cover point 2, which is develop an understanding of the exercise industry in New Zealand. I'll talk about the other things in class. Okay, so a who's who of the New Zealand exercise industry. So in this paper, we've talked a lot about collaboration between organizations and groups, networking, and all of these organizations will come together for various reasons and motives. Some of the key organizations in the exercise industry is the Exercise Association of New Zealand. So they provide support, resources, and a place for professionals in the exercise industry to be able to find help and to get an idea around what the industry is about. The Personal Trainers Council of NZ is run by personal trainers. Again, similar kind of kaupapa. They're there to provide support and advice around, like code of conduct issues within the exercise industry. Skills Active Aotearoa is an education platform. They provide a curriculum structure for hands-on learning, so learning while you are working. Some of you may have been a part of some Skills Active programs, and I believe schools have Skills Active programs built into some of their programs. And then REPS is the New Zealand Register of Exercise Professionals. So this is a space where fitness professionals can actually register and pay an annual subscription, and there comes a series of resources and a little bit of legitimacy around showing that you have the qualifications to be an exercise professional in the industry. And we'll talk a bit about the pros and cons of that registration space. So if we look at some stats, over 3,000 exercise professionals are now registered with REP. So that gives you an idea of how many exercise professionals we have in New Zealand. But, and I don't know what the stat is, it's not a compulsory thing to be registered. So that number wouldn't be indicative of actually how many exercise professionals we have in the country. Just over half of our personal trainers who are registered with REPS are operating their own businesses. So that's either their own facility or they are a contractor to a facility. So I guess that gives you an idea of if you're contracting or working for yourself, that there are a lot of areas within a business in this industry that you'd need to consider, and that REPS actually does provide some pretty good services and support. Okay, so let's just jump into some industry facts. So we're looking at the exercise industry. It's estimated that the turnover in this industry is between $200 and $250 million a year. So every year, that's how much money is spent in this space. 12% of the population in New Zealand are members of an exercise facility like a gym, and this represents 20% of the adult population. So 1 in 5 adults will be a member of a gym facility. 55% of gym members in New Zealand have used a personal trainer in the last year, and that's the highest rate in the Asia Pacific region. Which is really cool to know that, half the people in a gym facility are potentially in the market for a personal trainer. Why they have PTs and why they drop their PTs are varying reasons, and those are all things to consider in terms of trying to be successful in that space. There are over 600 gyms / exercise facilities and around 400 yoga studios. This is ranging from studios to independent yoga teachers. So there is a lot of potential to be working in this space and employed by these facilities. The industry supports and employs over 5,000 individuals. Around 3,000 of these are exercise professionals. So within the industry, there's actually other jobs that aren't directly exercise specialist roles. So that's like admin staff, sales staff, management staff. Over 75% of exercise facilities are privately owned, and they are single-site operators. The number of these multi-site facilities are growing. So if you think about last week we looked at what are some ways to increase the usage of multi-purpose spaces. Having gym facilities within these spaces is starting to grow. Something that I've always thought would be awesome over in the Mount, or even Tauranga in general, actually, by the coast, we have these surf lifesaving clubs, which fundraise for cash every year to keep their spaces running and operating and providing the service that they do. But there's none that have a public paying gym space out of there, and I'm sure they'd have the room for it. So, it's about thinking about how can you, as an exercise professional, actually utilize some of the facilities that are already out there rather than having to fork out big dollars for your own one. Ruth mentioned, like retirement villages. How many of those places have gyms built already in those spaces where you could potentially go and use? They might not even charge you if you provide a service to their residents at a discounted rate. The Australian and New Zealand Fitness Survey found that 53% of members join a gym and stay at it because of where it is. So again, another thing to consider if you were looking at starting up your own business in this space is where's the best location that has the best access to people. I know for me, having a gym on site on our campus is super helpful in terms of my adherence to actually training, and I enjoy exercising. So if you didn't enjoy it, then location becomes even more important. The same survey suggests that most members leave a club because of their time/their work commitments. So busy people, busy lives. If you think about location and time commitments, sort of goes hand in hand. So some benefits of being reps registered. This has come straight off their website, so it could be a little bit biased, but either way, it's some things to consider when you are becoming an exercise professional. What it shows is that you've gained a recognized and industry-approved qualification. So this is something that you should show your clients and explain, the formal qualifications that you've done. You can demonstrate competence in your working environment. So competence means that you can demonstrate that you know what you are doing. And generally, that's done through a series of having a good qualification, but also experience. You're committed to continuing professional development. So within the reps subscription, annually, you need to show that you are upskilling yourself in the ways of through education or workshops. And what they do is they provide you with these things called continuing professional development credits, and you need to accumulate a certain amount every year. Having appropriate public liability insurance. So this is something that you would need if you're working for yourself. If you're employed by somebody else, and then often that is covered for you. But it's to do with making sure that financially and legally you're covered if something happens while working with other people. So it could be through injury, it could be through malpractice. You are committed to the industry code of ethical practice. So this is a series of values and principles that you set yourself against. So you're showing that you have a professional standard, and this is what is expected from yourself, but also that your clients can expect from you. That you belong to an organization which, through a common voice, represents the industry to government and other bodies. So it's an organization that is committed to trying to boost the mana of the industry. So by you contributing to this space, you're giving them some resources and some tools to help do this. Plus, you also can provide your own voice to this space. In a nutshell, the REPS registration gives you a public, recognizable, promotable, and marketable quality mark. So it's like saying, I am legit, I've done all the study that I need to do, and I meet a certain criteria, which is set out by this New Zealand registration organization to say that, yes, I'm qualified to do what I do and provide this service to you in terms of your clients. They also have resources, so they have some cool marketing material that you can use to promote yourself, which marketing can be tricky, so that resource can be quite helpful when you're beginning. Obviously, you can outsource that to other people or do it yourself, but part of your REPS registration fee is that you have access to these resources. This next one's quite important if you plan to take your qualification overseas. So global recognition through portability. Let's say you finish your diploma level 5 and you want to go to Australia and work. They have a similar kind of organization called Fitness Australia. Over there, it's a lot more strict in terms of legality and legislation, where to work in the industry, you have to be registered with Fitness Australia. It's not so critical in New Zealand, but if you want to go work in Aussie, Reps registration and Fitness Australia recognize each other. So having your Reps registration means that you can then go to Australia and you can apply for Fitness Australia registration using your Reps registration in New Zealand. Whereas if you take your qualification to Aussie and try and get them to recognize the qualification itself, is a little bit trickier. Whereas Fitness Australia recognizes that Reps accreditation is valid, if that makes sense. If you're looking at taking your qual overseas, just send me a message and we can have a korero around that a little bit more. What also happens is they will list your name on a searchable database. So if a member wants to find a local PT who's Reps registered, then they can look on the website and find you. Your face will be on there in your profile. Access to continuing professional development courses in education. So within the Reps website, there is a list of accreditable CPD gaining qualifications and workshops. And then there's a stack of pretty cool resources and tools. We use some of the resources for the pre-screen space when we did the needs analysis report. So some useful resources and support, especially if you're starting out. Here's a little infograph, and it's very topical in this paper, sort of the different roles within the exercise industry. So you could, under this exercise facility or manager or owner space, you then have like a sales team leader, you'd have administration groups, team leaders, program directors, and then group operations leader. And then under all of this, you've got different things like membership, sales, front desk, reception, support staff, and admin roles. Then you've also got a group of exercise professionals. So they're the ones that deliver the exercise speciality. That could be group exercise instructors, gym instructors, personal trainers, so contracted or employed. And that could be in the facility or outside of the facility, and then small group trainers. So that's probably a new kind of space in the last 5 years or so. Is it's in the middle of group fitness, where you can pretty much take as many people as you like, to one-on-one stuff where it's sort of like 2 to 5 small group stuff. So that's the korero on the sport and exercise industry. We got a cool visit happening this week where we get to see this industry in action. Here's some links to these different organizations within the space. They've got some really cool resources, some good reading, especially if this is an area that you want to get into. I guess the take home is Reps is the registration entity in New Zealand. It isn't compulsory or legally binding to be registered with Reps New Zealand to work in the industry. Just know that if you are going to be working for yourself, there are some things that you'll need to think about, such as like having a code of ethics, having some kind of insurance, and knowing financially what your requirements are as well. And across these 4 spaces, there's some pretty cool resources in this area.